Hello again everyone, Melth here, with a special guide video about one of the most powerful but misunderstood power-ups in the entirety of Baldur's Gate 3, the Mirror of Loss. If you use this right, you can get +2 to any ability score for any member of your party, all of them in fact, and also can get +1 charisma for any of them that you wish to, up to +3 charisma in total if you wanted to really maximize that one stat. Very powerful stuff, but you can also miss your chance forever if you mess things up, so it's important to get it right. And I've seen a lot of guide videos that have misinformation or incomplete information about it. So I want to fix that and get behind the scenes, talk about the probabilities of how things work in the code, and how you can strategize and optimize your chances here. I'm going to start from the very beginning for people who know absolutely nothing about this mirror, but I'll provide timestamps so you can skip ahead if you wish to. So, first of all, where is this mirror? Well, it's underneath the House of Grief, which is in the city of Baldur's Gate in Act 3. You'll tend to, if it's exploring naturally, get to it quite late in Act 3 because it's so isolated. But there's basically nothing in your way if you want to just beeline here early on in Act 3 and get this power up for the whole rest of the game. So, far northwest corner of the city, House of Grief. But it's then hidden away behind a secret passageway in a secret Shar temple underneath this place. So out here we have a few Shar worshippers posing as therapists, basically. And in this back room, there's a secret passageway, which is not initially open like this, that you need to find. You can do that in several ways. You can either go along with their mapping of the heart, they call it, or if you just roll a good investigation check back here, you can just spot the secret passageway that way. Or there is a fail-safe, which is that if that doesn't work out for any of your party members, you can just kill them all, and then that will auto-reveal the secret passageway at that point. So, we go through there, we go into their secret Shar temple. The first few rooms of which are basically just empty, but in their central sanctum here, there is one big encounter coming up. So, in here you will find a huge number of Shar worshippers waiting to probably fight you. You can befriend them if you wish to, depending upon your choices and how you want to resolve a certain character's plotline. Probably it'll be a big fight for you on most people's runs. So, once you've battled your way past them, you'll then need to get into this backmost chamber where the mirror is actually hidden away. Now, to get in there, you can either lockpick this door, which is, pretty high DC, but at this point in the game, you probably lockpicked a lot of stuff. I'm sure you know how to optimize your character to be good at opening a lock. Or, if you place jewelry onto this little altar, that will also open the door. Just a couple diamonds will do it, or a larger number of lower value jewels will also work. So, that gets you access to the mirror itself. Let's now talk about how we actually use that. The first big step to do now is to figure out in character what the mirror does. And there are several equally valid ways to do that. This step is not really hard, in fact you can guarantee success, but you can mess up if you get confused here, as some people seem to. So I want to go through this carefully and explain exactly how it works. So, these top two options are equivalent, either using Arcana or Religion to identify the function of the mirror. And they're pretty easy checks. You can probably have someone in the party make them, and at that point, you've identified the function of the mirror for everyone in the party, and they can all move on to the next step together. Just don't get mixed up with this religion option here. That should be used at phase 2, and only after some strategy discussion and figuring out how these things work, which I'll be talking about. You don't want to do that now, or you will probably forever lock yourself out of getting the Patriar's memory buff. So don't do that. Do this top religion check, not offering prayers right now. There is actually a completely foolproof, no dice required way to unlock the mirror's function. So over here in the southeast of the Shar Temple, off the main room, there's this little armory. And back here is the most obvious secret passageway ever. It's a pretty easy thing to spot with DC 15 perception, but if you somehow manage to have the whole party fail that hypothetically, you can still get back there. Using things like fly or I believe gaseous form and teleport will also work. You can just get right back in there, skipping the check at all. So if I drink the potion of fly at this point, and then just fly right up and over, there we go. Then I can just climb up this ladder or just fly up there. and we'll find this hastily written note by one of the characters, and that will, with no checks required, reveal the function of the mirror. So now I can move on to a new set of options. So, with that information, there's no way to fail this first step. There's a dice-free way to guarantee unlocking the mirror's functionality. Alright, so if you follow this guide, you're guaranteed to successfully get to this next step. You now know in character what the mirror does, now it's a matter of using it. But for that we'd better be careful, because if you choose the wrong options here, you can permanently lock your character out of getting the outcomes that you want for them and just not get those bonuses. So, let's talk carefully through how this works. Every character now has two new options here, replacing the old ones. You can either offer a memory to the mirror without doing a prayer, or, with the DC 25 religion check, you can offer a prayer first, and then you start offering memories. Now these memories correspond to your 6 ability scores: Strength, Dexterity, Constitution, Intelligence, Wisdom, Charisma. Each character can offer each ability score only once down either of these two paths. So if you do Strength down this path, you can't reuse Strength for that character down this one. Each character gets 6 total tries. Now when you offer one of those stats, you take a temporary penalty to it, -2 to that stat until your next long rest, or just fix them all with a remove curse. That's pretty easy, don't worry about that. Even if you fix it though, you can't re-offer that stat. So again, 6 tries per character. So what happens then when you've offered one of those stats? Well, basically, behind the scenes, some dice are rolled that we won't ever actually see, and unlike all the other dice in this game, we have no control over. Doesn't matter what your build is, you can't control these outcomes. Down this first path, you have an 80% chance of getting nothing, or a 20% chance of getting to see the Patriar's memory, which then gives you permanent +1 charisma. Either way, you can then retry and offer whatever new ability scores until you've used up all 6, of course. So let's talk about the second path here. You first offer a prayer with DC 25 religion, and then you start offering your memories. So, once you succeed that check, that character, and only that character, now irrevocably has a different pool of outcomes behind the scenes. You now have a 20% chance of getting nothing, but being able to retry. 20% chance of getting the Patriar's memory and being able to retry, or 60% chance of getting to choose any one attribute to get a +2 bonus for the rest of the game. But crucially, after that, that character can never retry the mirror. So that +2 bonus is great, but if you get it prematurely, you have permanently locked yourself out of getting the Patriar's memory buff for that character. So that's the catch here. A lot of people worry about either hitting the DC 25 religion in the first place, or about just failing the 60% chances behind the scenes. But I'd say don't worry about either of those two things. Getting the DC 25 religion is pretty easy. I'll talk about how to do that guaranteed. And behind the scenes, 60% chance of getting the +2 bonus isn't that great out of one trial, but if you just redo it all 6 times with your 6 different ability scores, the chance of success is 99.6%. It is so high that even with all 4 characters, you probably won't actually see a failure in your entire Baldur's Gate 3 playing career, most of you out there, for even one character. With a big audience watching this video, yes, some people will have that problem, but statistically, you personally, yeah, I'm talking to you, don't need to worry about it. As long as, that is, you're offering all 6 memories down that path. If, though, you use up a lot on this first path, then your odds are not quite so good anymore. Still pretty good, but it is a risk that you're taking, so that's kind of the trade-off. One last big thing to talk about before we go into strategy here is that down either of these two paths, if your character has read the Necromancy of Thay, you can sacrifice your knowledge of that instead of one of your 6 ability scores. Now notably, you can try that after having already tried all your ability scores. So you can do your full 6 tries, and then if everything has failed, you can then fall back on Necromancy of Thay as your last resort. Now, what is crucial to know about it is that if you use the Necromancy of Thay, you will always get the +2 to an ability score. No chance of failure, but also no chance of the Patriar's memory, and therefore you are locked out of getting the Patriarch's memory forever on that character if you don't already have it. So, by no means open up with this. This should be your last resort. Especially because, of course, you then lose the perks of the Necromancy of Thay, which are fairly substantial, in my opinion. But there is actually one crucial little trick to know. See, here on this demonstration character, where I just used up my Necromancy of Thay, although I have the Tharkiate Codex, I haven't actually read it yet. So if I now go ahead and read that, it will then prompt me to open and finish the Ancient Tome. And if I now read that...
The book, the once indecipherable glyphs, now feel dangerously familiar. Promising as you pass...
Succeeded that.
But as you close...
And now under 5th level spells, I've got Dance Macabre and summon up my 4 ghouls, and I can get the temporary hit points after I do the appropriate steps to deal with Tharkiate Withering and so forth. So basically what I'm saying is, if you want to keep Dance Macabre, which I don't actually think is any good because you can't control the ghouls, so they're really kind of a liability, but some people love it. If you want to keep them, and you want to be able to use Necromancy of Thay as your backup option to guarantee getting the +2 stat bonus on a character, then make sure that you don't actually finish reading Necromancy of Thay until after you've gone through the mirror and possibly sacrificed Necromancy of Thay's forbidden knowledge there. One last thing here. Don't be fooled by this deception against the player. You cannot succeed down this pathway. So don't do that. It's a trick, basically. I don't even know why it exists. Alright, now let's talk strategy. We'll deal with the easy cases first. First of all, trivially, if you're willing to just save scum and reload, then, you don't need a guide for this. You can just keep trying to get the outcome you want. Okay. But for those of us playing on honor difficulty and not just save scumming and reloading, let's go through the options here. If you don't care about the Patriar's memory buff for that character, because that character doesn't care about charisma, then that's trivial. At that point, you just offer the prayer, DC 25, and then you just keep offering memories till you get your +2 bonus, which is almost guaranteed to happen. 99.6% chance, that's pretty darn good. Alright, that's one simple case. Another simple case is, you do want the Patriar's memory on a character, and that character has read the Necromancy of Thay. Alright, so in that case what you do is you just don't offer the prayer, just start offering up your memories. You have about a 74% chance of getting the Patriar's memory somewhere along the way if you offer up all 6 here. If you do get it, great. Swap over, offer the prayer, try to offer memories down that path, see if you get the +2. If you don't, at that point, you then offer the Necromancy of Thay and just get your +2 bonus. Alright, so then the tricky case is you have a character who wants the Patriar's memory and hasn't read Necromancy of Thay. That could happen for all kinds of reasons. Maybe you have 2 charisma builds in the party. They can't both have read Necromancy of Thay. Or maybe you just didn't know about this stuff back in Act 1 and had the wrong person read Necromancy of Thay, or whatever. Many reasons that could happen. So, in that case, what should you do? If you give the prayer too early, you almost certainly won't get the Patriar's memory. But if you offer it too late, you have diminished but still good odds of getting the +2 bonus. What's the right point to offer ordinary memories before swapping and doing the prayer? Well, that is a complicated math problem. And I've done all the math and all the probability evaluation, and I'll now go through that if you're interested in that. If you're not interested, I'll provide a timestamp so you can skip ahead to the thrilling conclusion. Okay? Hello again, everyone. Math here. Let's talk about how this stuff with the mirror works, and how I arrived at what I think is the optimal strategy for each of 2 cases, which I think encapsulate most builds that will be trying to get the Patriar's memory buff. The way I see it, you're either the kind of build that really wants the Patriar's +1 bonus so much that it's basically just as good as a +2, because otherwise you'll have a useless odd stat or something like that. You really care about getting the double success of getting the Patriar's memory and then getting the mirror. On the other hand, I think more people probably will be in the camp of really wanting the Patriar's buff, but ultimately evaluate about half as much as a +2 bonus from the mirror, as one would expect. So I took some time to evaluate probabilities and think about what the best outcomes are for each of those. Let's start with the basics first of all. So, I think of there as being two kinds of trials we go through here. There's the Patriar trials where you're just doing the initial version before the prayer, and there's only two possibilities. These are, therefore, strong independent Bernoulli trials that don't change when ran. Essentially, with each one, 20% chance of success, 80% chance of failure. You could do up to 6 of them, but in reality you wouldn't want to, because then that means no chance of doing the actual mirror trial after the prayer. Prayer trials, I'll call them. Patriar trials and prayer trials. So, if you were hypothetically to just do all 6 trials like that, you have a theoretical about 74% chance of success. Take the chance of failure, which is 0.8 to the 6th power, and you do 1 minus that. So, that's the theoretical chance that you'd get it, but in reality, of course, you'll never really be doing 6 trials of the Patriar kind. At some point, you want to move along to do the prayer trials. The chance of getting the mirror bonus is 0.6 each time, so you can see that if you did 6 mirror trials, you ultimately have a 99.6% chance or so of getting the +2 bonus, as I talked about previously in the video. And you have over here what I think is the correct chance of getting the Patriarch's bonus along the way while doing that many prayer trials. You can see it's a pretty low chance because, of course, to get to each one of these steps, you have to have a 0.2 chance, that is 20%, that in the next trial you still have a shot even to go for the Patriarch's bonus because you're not already either done or you got it before. So the chance is approaching 25%, which are just not great odds. So, things get more complex when they try to figure out what your chances are if you do a certain number of the Patriarch trials followed by a certain remaining number of the prayer trials. As I see it, one thing I had to figure out would be what is the cumulative chance that if you haven't got the Patriarch bonus in the Patriarch trials, you then go on and get it in a certain number of mirror trials before then getting the mirror bonus. So I went through that on these columns here. If you didn't already get the Patriarch bonus, when you move on to the mirror trials, it's essentially a fresh start. If you're doing 2 prayer trials, then it's also a pretty straightforward situation to think about. The only way you can get the perfect outcome there is that on the first trial you got Patriarchs, 20%, and on the second trial you got the mirror bonus, 60%. So that's overall a 12% chance of having those outcomes happen like that. Pretty low. So the way I thought through these later ones was like this. We basically need the final trial to be the mirror bonus, because of course if you got one previously to that, then you just end there. That's all there is to it, right? That's kind of handled by these previous steps we've gone through. So in that case, we basically need the first 2 trials out of these 3 we're doing here to be some combination of Patriar or nothing that includes at least 1 Patriar, and then we end with the final trial in the mirror bonus. So the last step is always kind of a 0.6 chance, and then we just need to figure out what the chance of all the other outcomes are that satisfy getting the Patriar bonus. So with 3 trials, for example, we could have had hypothetically Patriar, then the mirror bonus. So that's like 0.2 times 0.2 times 0.6. Or we could have had Patriar nothing, then the mirror bonus. Again, that's another 0.2 times 0.2 times 0.6. Or we could have had, nothing Patriar mirror. So same math, but we wouldn't count having nothing mirror. That's one of the bad outcomes, basically. And likewise, if we had something like, just mirror at the beginning, that also, ruins things and so forth. So adding up those small chances, I got 7.2% of getting the Patriar bonus first, then the mirror bonus on the 3rd trial. And I did similar math working things out for the 4th trial, where now you have 3 chances to get the Patriarch's bonus, and then the mirror bonus coming up. But the chance of not just getting eliminated by the mirror earlier makes that sequence of probabilities unlikelier and unlikelier, so that the chance of getting the good outcome you want gets pretty small. So if you add up the chance of getting it at step 2, step 3, step 4, you get the cumulative chances that I have over here. So, ultimately, if you were to do all 6 trials as prayer trials, you have about a 24.5% chance that you get the Patriar and then the mirror outcome. Which intuitively makes some sense that would be similar to, but a little tiny bit lower than the chance of just getting the Patriar's thing alone, because the chance of getting the mirror eventually is almost 100%. And the chance of getting the Patriar's thing alone is about 25%. So this makes a fair amount of intuitive sense, I think, once one thinks back on those previous steps. So now that we have that stuff taken care of, we can move on to the real applications where you're choosing some number of Patriar trials and then some number of these prayer trials. Now that we know if you have like 3 prayer trials, your chance is about 19.2% that will get you Patriar then mirror. So there's 2 ways to get the perfect outcome, essentially. You either get the Patriar in the initial trials and then get the mirror thing eventually, or you don't get the Patriar bonus in the Patriar trials, but you just kind of hope that things are saved in the way we just kind of talked about. So the chance of getting the Patriar bonus initially, followed by getting the mirror bonus in the prayer trials, is fairly straightforward, because we've already figured out what the chance of getting the Patriar bonus is in, say, 3 trials over here. Then you multiply that by the chance of getting the mirror bonus in the remaining 3 trials you would then have. So that's how we arrive at that number there. So you can ultimately see that these probabilities are peaking somewhere around 4 Patriar trials. But we must also bear in mind the other possibility, that you can also get perfect success from getting no Patriar in the Patriar trials, but then you do get it followed by the mirror bonus in the prayer trials. So for that, what we want is take the chance that you did not get the Patriar so far, which is of course needed to even get to this phase, and you multiply that by the cumulative chance we found of getting the perfect outcome in the remaining number of the prayer trials. If we were to do 1 Patriar trial followed by then up to 5 prayer trials, you'd have an 80% chance of not having already got the Patriar bonus, times then, we figured out before, the cumulative chance of about 24% of getting the perfect outcome in the 5 remaining mirror trials, and so forth. So, if we just add up those 2 ways to get the perfect success, we get this column over here. So you can see that that peaks around 3 Patriar trials. So is that the answer? No, it's not that simple. That's how things look from kind of an a priori strategy perspective. If you were to just blindly commit to doing a certain number of Patriar trials and couldn't adjust later on, that's what you'd want to pick. But in reality, of course, when you've gotten 3 Patriar trials in, if you haven't got the Patriar bonus yet, you can reevaluate and think, okay, now what's my best bet? Do I want to switch over as originally planned, or is it better now to persist for 1 more Patriar trial, or 2 more Patriar trials, things like that. So I did a bit of math about that too. So the chance of, okay, if I do just switch now, we've already basically figured out that just corresponds to these numbers here, just the cumulative chance of getting the perfect outcome in that remaining number of prayer trials. So if you were to switch at that point, you then have a 19.2% chance of getting the perfect outcome from the 3 prayer trials that remain. Or we could switch our strategy up and say, okay, we will do 1 more Patriar thing than originally planned, and then switch over to mirror trials from then on out. So in that case, you have a 20% chance to get what you want from your last Patriar trial, and then you have 2 prayer trials to then get the mirror bonus. So 0.2 times the 0.84 that you get from having the 2 mirror trials left. Or there's the chance, 80%, that you don't get the Patriar bonus in this last Patriar trial, and then you multiply that chance by the outcome we already figured out before of what's your chance of now switching to the mirror and getting the perfect outcome there in just the remaining 2 trials, which is not very rosy. But the interesting thing is, if you add that up, it is a somewhat higher chance of success than if we were to stick with the original strategy. Ultimately, what we conclude is, if you care equally about the Patriar bonus and the Mirror plus 2 bonus, the best strategy is you go up to 4 Patriar trials in and then you switch. But of course, I think in the real world, most people are not going to value the Patriar's bonus of plus 1 completely equally to the Mirror bonus of plus 2. I think for most people, it's going to be closer to the +2 is twice as good as the +1. Something like that, anyway. So for them, we need a different kind of math. We need to try to figure out what is the expected value of points you're going to be getting from each of these different setups, basically. So that's the math that I've gone through down here at the bottom. There are 4 outcomes you can get. You either get nothing, you get the Patriarch bonus but not the mirror bonus, you get the mirror bonus but not the Patriarch bonus, or you get both. Those 4 things must add up to 100% chance. So then you can calculate the chance of getting each of those 4 outcomes and then multiply that by the value of that outcome. You know, getting nothing is worth nothing. So you take the chance of getting nothing, multiply it by 0, and there you go. Getting all 3 points is worth 3 points. You take the chance of getting that, multiply that by 3, and so forth. Then you can add up the chance of getting each of those point values, and you get to the total expected value down each of these 7 choices you could make. So the chance of getting nothing is thankfully pretty small in all of these cases. Let's go through how that works. Take the chance of getting nothing in the Patriar trials, and multiply that with the chance of getting nothing in the Prayer trials. So for the simple case of doing 0 Patriar trials, you have a 80% chance of getting nothing in your 0 Patriar trials. Raised to the 0th power is just 1, so not changing anything because you're not doing any of them. Not too surprising. Then you have 20% chance of getting nothing in your mirror trials, raised to the 6 minus number of Patriar trials power, which is 6. So 0.2 to the 6th power is a very low number. So you don't need to worry about getting nothing if you do 6 prayer trials. Not surprising. Alright, let's move on to the chance of getting just the Patriar bonus. It's probably easier to talk about the extreme cases first and then talk about the middle ones after that. So we have, yes, the chance of getting just the Patriar bonus from these certain number of Patriar trials we figured out before, which was just taking the chance of failure in those trials and doing 1 minus that. And then we multiply that, though, by the chance of not getting the mirror bonus. That is 0.4 raised to the number of prayer trials that we're doing. In this case, that's, the 0th power, so it's times 1. But the general idea there stands. But then in the less extreme cases, we need to also think about the chance that you get the Patriar bonus in the mirror trials and add that in too. So for example, here with doing 4 Patriar trials, that leaves us with 2 prayer trials we need to not get the mirror bonus in to be in this column. So that's going to be 0.4 to the 2nd power, multiplied by the chance of getting the Patriar bonus in those 4 trials that we figured out from before. But then to that, we also need to add the chance of getting the Patriar bonus, but nothing else, from the mirror trials. So first of all, we need to then not have got the Patriar bonus in the Patriar trials to even be considering that outcome. Then we multiply that by a somewhat more complicated number. So we have 0.4 to the 2nd power chance of not getting the mirror bonus, which again is required to be in this column because this is the column for not getting the mirror bonus. But from that, we must subtract the chance that you didn't get the Patriar bonus there either. 0.2 to the 2nd power. So that, I think, is a chance of getting just the Patriar bonus. And that was the most complex one, I would say. Chance of getting just the mirror is a bit simpler to go through here. So first of all, if you're doing no prayer trials, you can't get the mirror bonus. That's pretty obvious. If you're doing one of them, you have a 0.6 chance of getting the mirror bonus, times the chance that you did not get the Patriar bonus and thus are in this column at all. So that's what we figured out before, chance of not getting that in 5 trials times 0.6. The chance of getting just the mirror bonus in 4 Patriar trials, 2 mirror trials, starts off with a chance of not getting the Patriar bonus. Then multiply that by the 60% chance we get the mirror right off the bat, plus there's the 0.2 chance we don't get the mirror bonus or the Patriar bonus at first, and then we multiply that by the chance that we got the mirror bonus in the next trial, or there's a chance that we don't get anything in the first 2 mirror trials, and we get it in the 3rd one, and so forth. So that's 0.2 to the 2nd power then, times 0.6. So summations here, but overall it's simpler than figuring out the just Patriar stuff. Then the chance of getting both we figured out before. It's our a priori do this number of Patriar trials, then this number of prayer trials thing. Because this person who cares double about the mirror bonus is not going to want to say, I got 3 Patriar trials in, I'm running low on chances to get the mirror bonus, I'll stick it out and do 1 more Patriar trial. That does not make sense for this second person. So, we now have all of our chances figured out, multiply them by their values, and add those up to find our total expected value for each of these outcomes. And what we find is two numbers are more or less the same, but the peak does come at 3 Patriar trials. And that concludes the math section here, I think. Alright, so, the thrilling conclusion. If your character's build cares so much about that +1 charisma bonus that it's equally valuable to you as the +2 bonus, in that case, the right choice is to offer 4 memories down this path. And then, if you haven't got the Patriarch's blessing, at that point you basically give up and do the prayer. On the other hand, if your character would like to have the Patriarch's memory buff, but you don't really care that much about it, it's worth half as much to you as getting +2 to a stat instead. In that case, the right choice is to offer up 3 memories down this path. And if you haven't got the Patriarch's buff at that point, then you switch over. Let's go through things for this character as an example here. Although this guy does have the backup plan of the Necromancy of Thay.
Its exact nature, but still though, a foreign sensation you embody Arvis.
Okay, this is one of the 80% useless memories.
The dark.
So we now lost some strength. We'll try that again.
The huge mirror stares down.
We offer another memory.
You must surrender some part
Now we'll go with dexterity.
of your own. Still though, for what a foreign sense.
No, there we go. Patriarch's memory right there. Out of 6 tries, the odds are pretty good. Out of 4 tries, the odds are okay at the very least.
Charming and cajoling in the parlors of the upper city waste. The memory fades away.
Alright.
The dark
So this character now has the Patriarch's memory, giving a +1 charisma bonus forever. So once you have the Patriarch's memory, you can still keep offering memories down the first path, but you really don't want to. Because now there's no profit, you're just giving up your stats for nothing. So now you definitely want to do this religion check, and then start offering your stats down that path. So now let's talk about how to optimize that religion check here. First of all, if you are scared of failing that DC 25 religion check, and you're willing to be a little bit cheesy, you can guarantee success. Just go to Withers and respec.
Dost thou require as thou...
So you'll respec into a rogue, and put a high ability score into intelligence. This should be fine. Then you level up to level 11 rogue. Subtype doesn't matter at all here. Take the skilled feat first, and then pick up religion and whatever other junk you want, doesn't really matter. Then at level 6, you'll then make sure that you choose religion here to get expertise in, doubling your proficiency. Ability improvement, go into intelligence. Level 10, rogues get an extra feat, put that into intelligence. And level 11, the key thing here is that you get reliable talent. So now basically your floor on the dice is a 10. So if you have plus 15 to that stat, you then auto-succeed the DC 25 check. All you really need is 11 levels in Rogue, and you're good to go. So if I go to my character sheet now, and go to my skills section here, under Intelligence, you'll see that I now have plus 13 Religion. So minimum 23 is what I'm looking at currently. So I could equip, for example, the Mage's Friend Ring, that's plus 1 Religion. I can have an ally cast Guidance on me, that's always guaranteed plus 1 right there, we're good. Or I could use the Shapeshifter's Boon Ring and then go into Disguise Self mode pretty easily. That would be another plus 1 right there. Many, many, many options. Anything that gets you to plus 15 guaranteed, you're good. And so you could then, in theory, respec every character to be one of these silly rogues, and then respec back to your actual build after that. But I think that's a little bit cheesy, and it's definitely overkill. Let's say you don't want to cheesily respec your entire party to be level 11 rogues and then back, which is pretty time consuming and pretty unnecessary, I would say. You can still virtually guarantee success on the DC 25 check anyway, because you have a lot of resources here in Act 3. First of all, one crucial thing that you probably have access to from back in Act 1 is the Warped Headband of Intellect, which you've got from the Ogre Lump of the Enlightened. This gives you a minimum intelligence bonus basically for any character of +3. Just swap the hat around and +3 is your new floor. People might have well over that at this point in the game if they're a wizard or whatever, but +3 is the minimum any person in your party should have for intelligence at this point. For this purpose anyway. Alright. Then the religion skill itself is a really common skill. Like a 2/3 or even 3/4 majority of the classes in the game just have access to it immediately at level 1. Probably several of your characters already do just have it. Another +4 at this point. And then also, if you need it on a couple other people, there are things like the elixirs of human versatility that you can have got from Araj Obladra back in Act 2. You can easily have had 2 of those, one for Gale and one for Will. And those give you proficiency with everything. Or if you have Lae'zel or any Githyanki in the party, they can just use Astral Knowledge Intelligence to get proficiency with religion that way. And the list goes on. Basically, it should not be that hard to get every member of your party proficiency in religion for this purpose. Alright, so you can probably be talking about a +7 or so bonus so far from intelligence and proficiency. Then there's items like the Mage's Friend Ring. That gives you +1 to religion. That was available in the Arcane Tower back in Act 1. Okay, we're at +8 and counting now. Then there's guidance. If you don't have guidance at this point in the game, I don't even know how you managed to not get guidance by this point in the game. So, plus another D4. Then on top of that, you can probably also have by now the Shapeshifter's Boon Ring. Either from killing the Ox for this earlier in the game, or having helped the Strange Ox all the way through, and once you got to Baldur's Gate, he then gave you that ring, as I recollect. So that gives you a D4 bonus if you're in Disguise Self mode, which tons of characters have access to at this point. And there are also just scrolls of it available in the game too. Or their seeming, I think, also works. So huge number of ways to have your characters be able to disguise themselves and activate that ring. Alright, another D4 there. Then also, there's the really common spell Enhance Ability. Tons of caster classes get that. It's only level 2 spell, and you can just cast that to give someone advantage on their intelligence checks, such as religion. If you upcast it to level 5, you can hit the entire party at once, but you can just as cheaply and efficiently just cast a couple times at level 2 on people, and then you're good to go there. Then there are various other boosts too, like Bards, for example, can give anyone a +D10 bonus at this point, +5.5. That is massive. Another example buff someone might have at this point in Act 3 is Rapture, plus a D6 to all your ability checks, among other things. You get that from the Wood Elf or maybe a Nymph. Noise, I think is her name, in Sharess's Caress upstairs. You rescue her from a Mind Flayer, and then she gives you that buff if you notice that she was turned on by the Mind Flayer, because this is Baldur's Gate 3, and that's just the way things are. Anyway, plus another D6. Another potent bonus there. Or like the new Stars Druid can be giving people another +D6 to things, and the list goes on. My point being, there are so many bonuses you can stack up, plus advantage, plus inspiration in your pocket. Before even getting out inspiration, you can easily be at 90% plus to succeed. And then you have inspiration to back you up if you need it. So, it's not too hard to just succeed that DC-25 check if you just take a little bit of time to make sure you're properly kitted out with your buffs first. In this case, I've got everything but guidance on me now, I believe. Even with a mere 13 there, that's a success.
You feel a presence, dark and ancient. It approves of
So,
your field.
that gets us to this new pathway here. We then offer a memory. It looks superficially the same, but now we're on the good outcomes path.
You must surrender.
So we'll give up Constitution now, for
In
example.
your mind grow white still though. For a foreign sensation, you embody a heartbroken heiress.
Looks like we've got one of the junk outcomes here. That's fine. We've got more options.
Deep the dark mirror
We'll try it again. We've already passed the check. We don't need to repass it.
stares down at you. You must surrender.
Alright, let's go with intelligence. We've got the circle on, so it's not actually going to debuff us here.
To be still though. Your whatever power lurks deeper in the recesses of the dark mirror.
Having some bad luck here.
The huge mirror stared the mirrors. You must surrender some part of yourself. The gaps in your mind grow. Still though, you feel the presence of something ancient.
There we go.
You are helpless as it explores where once the mirror showed.
There we go. This is the good option here. As I've said, you are almost guaranteed to get onto this pathway if you have a decent number of memories to offer at this point. Even if you only had 3 tries here, you're already at like 93% chance to just get the bonus. So pretty good odds. Alright, so that takes care of our first character. Then we just kind of repeat for each separate character. We evaluate, do they want the Patriar's memory or not? If not, it's pretty easy, you just want to do the religion check. So in that case, we pass them over, if they need it, the Headband of Intellect, we pass over the Mage's Friend Ring, we pass over the Shapeshifter's Boon Ring and disguise them, we give them things like Bardic Inspiration, we make sure they have Enhanced Ability Intelligence, all that stuff. And then pass the DC 25 religion check and get your bonuses. If they do care about the Patriar's memory and don't have Necromancy of Thay, then as I said, it's a tricky math problem, but the math that I've worked out is that you want to give up 3 or 4 memories, depending on how much you value the Patriar's buff first, and then offer the prayer and offer your remaining memories at that point. So, there is one last quirk to talk about, I would say, which is for Shadowheart. So, of course, Shadowheart's personal questline is all about Shar. And at the end of Act 2, you can either choose to murder or spare Dame Aelin, and thereby either embrace or reject Shar at that point, which then changes your outcomes here. If you rejected Shar at that point, that is it. You get nothing, you lose, good day, sir. You cannot get any bonus on Shadowheart under any circumstances from the mirror at that point. Doesn't matter if you pass this check despite disadvantage, doesn't matter if you give memories here without doing the prayer, no matter what, you just get this response, and you get nothing.
Nothing to the dark.
Next move is...
However, if you murdered Aelin, and therefore are still in Shar's good graces, then the choices that you make in here can actually impact things, and you can get some boosts here, although not everything you would like to. So, first of all, I would not bother interacting with Shadowheart's parents up there yet. If you choose to spare them and reject Shar at that point, you then get stuck back on the good Shadowheart path and you can get nothing from the mirror. But if you skip them for now, you can go over to the mirror directly, and you'll have some different outcomes here because Shar approves of what you've done so far.
Reflection.
You still need to make these checks to identify what it does, but once that's done, or you figure that out by any other means, then you should be good to go.
A mirror of great powers rest
Okay,
within the...
so then down either of these 2 paths here, you get the same outcome. Doesn't matter if you make the check or not.
You feel your goddess's presence once again. As her chosen, you have already made now all you need. Where once the
So,
mirror showed
it then just skips you directly and guaranteed to the +2 to any one stat.
experiences.
The upshot, of course, is that you still can't get the Patriar's memory.
Now offered back to you
So,
to choose
as
one.
far as I'm aware, there is no way whatsoever to get Shadowheart the Patriar's memory. And if you want to spare Aelin, which is pretty important to not have everyone at Last Light in, including a bunch of NPCs, just die, you have locked Shadowheart out of getting any bonus from the mirror too, which makes her just kind of one of the weakest characters in that sense. I do, by the way, have a special video showing a technique you can use to spare everyone at Last Light in while killing Aelin, or killing Isabel, or things like that, but you'd have to do some pretty weird stuff to make that work. One last little thing to talk about as a limitation on this mirror here. Neither the general mirror buff nor the Patriar charisma buff can get you beyond 24 charisma. The mirror's bonuses are just hard capped at that point and will not help you. So if you're already going to get 24 charisma from something like feats and the hag hair and the Patriar's buff, then don't waste your 1 mirror buff on charisma 2, or it just won't help you at all. Put it at some other stat like dexterity or whatever. Now, a lot of people therefore think that 24 is the effective cap for charisma or other stats in this game. But that's not actually true. I have found ways to substantially break that cap and get much higher than that. But that will need to be its own guide video dedicated to that topic. Thank you for watching, everyone, and a special thank you to my Patreon supporters, the Irreverent Reverend, Master Knight DH, Jackie and Lino, Travis, Andrew Curzon, Trubsy, Oliver, Cronish, Jago, DK in DK, Gregory, Broken Box, Jenna M, Just Becca, Jack, Marcus the Carcass, Nubiana, Discord Colossus, Nicholas Schmuck, Kostya Nesterovich, Frederick Brune, Robin, Stefan Van Zyl, Eddie, Mina, Ali Kasamoglu, Skylar Sauce, Nick Myers, Emp Ninjas, Preben A, Chupatan, Diabetic Cat, Marvin Fay, Max, Afro Zamurai, Step Back Too Deadly, Lodestone, Pickmars, Brad, IJ23, Rodrigo Lopez Dato, Kevin Ditchide, Silent, Eldridge, Jake Watson, and a name that starts with sword emojis. Have a great day, everyone.